Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and in this video, I interview Kurt Phillip from Convertica. We talk about A/B testing and conversion rate optimization. So if you're brand new to this concept, Kurt breaks it down for us, and we hear about how he got a start in SEO and marketing in general, and a few more details as well. Highly recommend you do check out Convertica. There's a few case studies, which I will link in the show notes and description. So you could check that stuff out as well and give Kurt a shout. Let him know that you saw the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll route them over to Kurt and hopefully he'll be able to answer them for us. So anyway, without further ado, let's check out the video. Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and I'm with my friend Kurt Phillip from Convertica. How are you today?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Doing really well, and we are using Zoom per your recommendation. So it's the first time I've used Zoom in a long time, and hopefully it's perfect so far. So thanks for the tip.
Seems to be going well, yeah.
So for the people that don't know you, Kurt, can you give a quick intro about like what you're doing at Convertica and a little of your background?
Yeah, sure. So I'm founder and CEO of Convertica, and we run a done-for-you conversion rate optimization service. Where we go in, we take over someone's website, we run a bunch of split tests, and we do everything from start to finish, from setting up the test, doing the redesigns, running a test, reporting, everything from end to end on that sort of side. And how I got into it was I am an SEO. I have been since I was a teenager, and built and sold many affiliate sites and had a consultancy, and sort of noticed the demand for CRO about 2 or 3 years ago. So I stepped into this market, sold off all my affiliate sites, and closed down my consulting business, and then yeah, here we are today. So we've run a lot of tests on affiliate sites and SEO sites. So I'm sure I can share some of those insights with you guys.
Cool. And it sounds like you've been doing SEO for quite a long time. Do you have any good stories of getting a penalty or anything like that from back in the day?
Yeah, I've been through it all, mate. I've been through penalties. I've come back and gone into PBNs and gone through all the ups and downs. But I really got into it heavily in sort of 2008. I was doing it just for fun, in the mid 2000s, where you didn't really have to do too much. But in late 2000s, I was doing a lot of Web 2.0s, as I'm sure you remember back in the day. A lot of Web 2.0 link wheels and stuff, and we were doing them all manually with my team, and then started to really make some good money there, and we branched off into PBNs shortly after. I remember Alex Becker was pushing them in 2011, 2012, something like that, I think, if I remember correctly. I think it was around that time. And then that was really when I started to get into business, and my first ever company, it was a e-commerce store. We used Web 2.0s and PBNs and went to number one within 2 or 3 weeks. And the business really took off, and that sort of supercharged the growth in that. And then took on a few other big brands actually around that time with PBNs, and got them to number one. And it was just good timing, I guess, when PBNs weren't sort of smashed to bits and everyone was doing them. I'm sure you remember 2012, 2013. That was just the golden age for ranking very quickly. You could throw 50, 100 PBNs at a site in one day and it'll be ranking within a week, So
it was ridiculous. Yeah. When I got into it a little bit later, so 2013, so kind of the tail end. So just so I could invest a lot of money and time into the PBNs, and then I lost everything.
Yeah.
So, but it's a rite of passage, you got to do it.
But I don't know whether you saw this, but I remember when, because I had a few pretty big clients in Australia, where that's where I was running my original business, and they were all ranking off Web 2.0s and PBNs, and I had around 150 PBNs, maybe 200 PBNs get de-indexed when they did that massive sweep of de-indexing PBNs, 2015, I'm going to say, something like that. I actually didn't notice any sites get penalized from that. Did you notice anything get hit? So even though I lost all the PBNs, they still ranked just as fine. I replaced the links, and it didn't seem to have a negative impact.
Correct. Yeah, I had one instance where things were penalized, manual penalties. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like big de-index. what word is that?
De-indexing, yeah.
De-indexation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then no penalties, but like all the links that I had were,
Yeah. You
bad,
couldn't
so the
use them
rankings
again.
dropped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, we will definitely get into the like the nuts and bolts of like CRO. But before we do, I noticed you mentioned like you sounded like you built a team like even early on. So did you have any like professional experience or background in building a team or like working with a lot of people or being a manager? Just curious, like what drew you to the
No.
agency?
No, I didn't at all. I think it was just my personality type and reading a lot of books, I guess. I don't know, because I'm a butcher by trade out of high school. So I went into a laboring job, and I have no idea sort of how I picked up that skill set. But then I just worked out that I was good at growing and managing people. I'm not the best. Uh, I'm pretty sloppy when it comes to uh, making everything perfect. I have an end goal and I like to get to it very quickly. So I like to hire people that are very diligent and have a keen eye for detail and stuff, because I knew I wasn't good at that. So then I hired people who were, but no specific training, just reading. I think the paradigm shift was, the 4-hour work week. And then from there going into the E-Myth and then a bunch of other books that sort of gave me a good framework in my own head. But
Okay, interesting. I'm going to come back to that because I find
mhm.
that very interesting. So let's get into the CRO stuff.
Yeah,
So
sure.
at a high level, can you just give us like the couple bullet points of like what the process is and like I guess what the goal is? So CRO, like
Yeah.
very beginning.
Yeah, so the goal of CRO is to maximize the value of your visitors, right? So you have a certain amount of, whether it's from SEO, whether it's from PPC, you have let's just say you have a 6-month earnings of $5,000 a month on your website. You've sort of maxed out all your keywords. You're at number one for all your buyer intent keywords, and you sort of don't know where to go. That's where we step in, and we require sort of, on a minimum side, sort of 2 to 3,000 visitors per month per page we test. Now, the process is we go in, we identify the top 10 pages for earnings. Generally, the top 5 to 10 pages will create nearly all the earnings on a site. I'm sure you've seen this over and over again. So then we go through and identify those, and then we run split tests on those. So not only do they create most of the revenue, but they have most of the traffic. And with split testing, traffic is the number one golden. What's the word I'm trying to look for here?
Like a
Is the
factor.
main thing we look for when we're taking on a site. So once we've identified those top 10 pages, we'll then go and set up the test for, say, 5 to begin with, and then at the start, it was a bunch of hit and miss. We would just run a bunch of different layouts until we knew what would win. But now that we've run around 4,000 split tests, we have a long list that we know have worked on previous niches. So then we'll go through and test those on each of the sites. Generally, a test will run for 3 to 4 weeks, and then we'll pull the Amazon data, because we set up separate sub affiliate tracking IDs for each split test variant. So we set up 2 split testing variants, and then we see which creates the most revenue, and then rinse and repeat that process 3 or 4 times over the campaign, depending on how long it is.
Gotcha. And in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you figure out like what you wanted to test?
So I had a business partnership with Matt Diggity, and we were taking on a large portfolio of websites where they would come in, we would SEO and CRO the website, and we'd split the profit that we'd make on top of what they were already making. But the issue was, we had a very strict protocol when we were looking at the backlink profile of sites. We couldn't take on anything, for one, if they didn't have every single link listed. If they were just using different providers and they didn't know, we'd instantly dismiss that site. And I saw a ton of opportunity that we're leaving on the table. And then, from the 20, 30, 40 sites, I can't remember how many it was, I just noticed the quick wins that we're getting on those sites. So then I went off and started, it was originally called CRO Guy, on the side. And then just built up a long list of good performing layouts and things like that, and went from there.
Gotcha. So at this point, you have, I don't know, probably a handful, and you're like, this works like 90% of the time. So you can run the test, and you have the data at that point, and then you can roll out whatever like the winning test is, right?
Yeah. So like initially at the start, we only would put a client on a 1 month campaign because we just would go in. We'd only take sites that we knew we could get a quick win on, and then we would just do what we knew would work, and then that was it. So it was easy. We would only take on sites that we knew we could get a win on. So then it was pretty simple. But now most of our clients stay with us between 3 and 6 months. So we have to keep delivering value in that time. And how we do that is just from having so much data on what's worked. So, if that layout works, then this one should have a good chance of winning. We have a whole spreadsheet matrix of how to know what to test next. And that's how the process sort of works now. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what's your team look like right now?
Mm-hmm. We've done a pretty corporate structure. I've got a middle management, and then under them they have their own departments under them. So we have director of operations, we have head of customer support, and then the marketing department we're sort of juggling around at the moment, but it's pretty automated in the sense of Facebook ads, Reddit, content marketing. It's all pretty systemized now. We don't really need a heavy person team. We're using a lot of technology to distribute it, but yeah, most of the team around 15 or 16 are purely in the operations side, setting up the test, doing the coding, running the reports, doing QA, quality assurance before the test goes out, make sure there's no mistakes, making sure we're following all the SEO protocols and things like that. And then, yeah, we've got around 25 people. We've got around 4 or 5 contractors that we use quite often, and then we've got around 20 full-time staff.
Okay, cool. And where's the staff located? Is it a remote team?
Yeah, we've got a fully remote team, and most of them are and most of the operations team are in the Philippines. So my head of operations is based in Manila, so he hired everyone in person and within his network. So we've grown out a pretty conventional team there. But then most of the other team members are distributed all around the place. Europe, Thailand. I spent a lot of time in Thailand, so there's a few team members out there, and then India, yeah, all over the place.
Okay, cool. And like, are you like, hey, I want to keep growing, or where do you see it going?
Yeah, it sort of has grown pretty organically. As you get good results, you get bigger clients and so on. And some of the clients we've got at the moment are, 7, 8 figure clients now. We're starting to move into a whole different market, which requires a different communication style. And if you notice our blog posts, how they've changed, if you have the chance to go and have a look, at the start, they were all affiliate related blog posts and how to get quick wins on affiliate sites and so on. And now it's more high level thinking about psychology and different techniques like that, which attracts the larger clients, and it's working really well. So we're growing pretty organically. The team we've set up in a way that we can scale pretty well too. We do like a bottom to top approach where we never hire someone in a managerial position. We'll always hire someone in at the bottom and then train them up so they understand the whole system, especially in the operations department. And then as they prove themselves over time and get more experience, then they get promoted up to more senior positions.
Okay, cool. And jumping back into sort of like the nuts and bolts here. So what tool do you use for the A/B testing?
So we use the infrastructure from a tool called VWO, which is it's one of the big 3. There's Optimizely, there's VWO, and there's Google Optimize. There's sort of the big 3 that are out. There's a bunch of others now too, actually, but those are the more robust ones. And then we have built our own custom reporting dashboard, and they have an API. So we've created a heap of software off the back of it that incorporates with Slack and Zapier, and we have all these automations hanging off it too. But it all comes down to the data processing from VWO. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess why do you go with VWO versus like the Google Optimize? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Google solution. We just found it more tailored to what we needed. They were very accommodating in helping us scale, customizing different things that we needed and didn't need. I find because they're a company that's fully invested in improving their product, like Optimizely is too, they have more innovations in the company. I find Google Optimize has lagged a bit because it's one of Google's billion projects that they have going on. They don't have a full focus on it. So yeah, they were just great, and they have a great API. So it allowed us to systemize and automate. I think we'd have double the staff if it wasn't for the amount of automations we have hanging off it. Yeah.
Got it. And I mean, it's a fairly expensive tool, and the
Yeah, yeah.
optimize is like it's free, right, from Google.
And that's a pretty big misconception. It's free to a point, right? It's like um, the issue with Optimize and VWO is it's a high barrier to entry because they know they want to focus on more enterprise clients, whereas yeah, Google Optimize is free until I don't know how many views it is, but it's until certain level of visitors and so on that you need, and then it gets quite expensive. But yeah, I mean we pay quite a bit for ours. We get like 4 million views allowance per month or something like that. So it allows us to run a lot of tests on scale.
Okay, cool. So for the DIY kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're not ready yet to invest in the service, or they just want to try it out on their own and like dabble. Like, how would you recommend they approach the process? So you talked about like doing some split testing, making sure you have tracking in place. Like, is there a way to do this without making it so overwhelming?
I mean, I've got tons of case studies and blog posts on our blog, got walking through, affiliates, lead gens, e-commerce, like a bunch of how to get started sort of blog posts.
Cool.
But in terms of, yeah, I mean, Google Optimize is a great way to get started. I mean, it's a free for the one or two website owner type website. You need, I think the entry level pricing now for VWO is like $1,000 a month or something. So I think because I don't know, they want to focus on that 80/20, right? So I'm sure most of their headaches come from people who have free accounts. So they just nipped it in the butt, and that's how it goes. But yeah, Google Optimize is a great way. It has all the functionality. You got to make sure that you have Google Analytics set up and it's under the same account that you are setting up the Optimize account in. Otherwise, it can cause some glitches and stuff. But yeah, that's a great way to get started. It has the same functionality essentially. It just doesn't have a robust API, but no one has to worry about that unless you're running it at scale.
Okay, cool. And I'll get links and stuff for
Mm-hmm.
the case studies that you mentioned so people can check that out, of course. So I have, and actually a few of my students have some sites where it doesn't really follow the 80/20 as much because of just long tails are going after using the keyword golden ratio. So in some cases, the highest traffic page is only getting like 2% of the traffic, something like that. So it's big sites, really spread out. Like, do you have, I mean, is it a good candidate for doing such testing, or is it like a little bit harder to nail that down?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to minimum traffic volumes, right? So, like, if it has anything for our service, we don't take anything less than 2,000 visitors per month because most of our pricing is on a monthly recurring subscription. If we're not getting them a result in 2 months with nothing to show for them, no one's going to be happy with that, right? So that's what we do. But I mean, if you're running your own tests and you've got 1,000, 1,500 views a month, and that's enough to run it as long as you're patient and you set up a good hypothesis and you stick to it and you don't chop and change the test and you let it run, then that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I guess the key is like if you're getting that traffic, which I mean, a lot of these are pretty high traffic sites,
Mm-hmm.
but you could get the data and then roll it out to like a handful of other
Yeah,
pages,
exactly. And then eyeball it. Yeah.
and
So
you could,
we always make sure that you track. Like, so it's, you never just roll something out if it's worked on one page or two pages. You still at least track it. So once you roll it out on another page, make sure you've set up a separate sub affiliate tracking ID and compare it to the month before and so on. Of course, different months have different buying cycles and so on, but you still want to track it somewhat, that you're not just rolling it out blindly, because we met a lot of people who just didn't believe in CRO, and it was because they tested one page, rolled it out site wide, and they didn't have any increase. So we ran a case study where we did that across 10 pages. So we identified one layout that worked really well on one page, on the highest income page, rolled it out on 10 pages, and it was a 30%, 30%, 30%. One went up, one stayed the same, and one went down. So you need to still always test, because you shouldn't just roll it out, because different buyer intent from different keywords and different layouts and so on will have different
gotcha.
results. Yeah.
And I guess, the scientific method, it needs to be like repeatable. So
Mm-hmm.
just a one-off, like an N of one is not super helpful. So, and how many times you may have mentioned it in there, but how many times do you like double check, or do you at this point you have so much data where you're like, okay, it worked here, we're pretty confident?
No, we
And
always test. We
okay,
always test it. So yeah, we're like with we only really work with big sites now. Like as we get more supply and demand, we're only working with bigger and bigger sites because we get better and better results. So we'll always test now because a lot of these sites are worth $500,000, $1 million, $2 million or more. So we have to make sure that we're not just rolling stuff out willy nilly because every 1%, 2% in conversions really does matter to their bottom line. A lot of investment firms we're working with now have 500 sites, 1,000 websites, and they're getting return for their investors. We have to make sure that each button color has to mean something. That's always a bad example, but we've seen it in the past, where we've changed a button color and then changed the text, and we've increased revenue by 30-40%. Of course, these are not always the case, but it does actually happen. It really does.
every now and then. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So another sort of like I guess exception case sort of question. So you have a lot of data about stuff
Mm-hmm.
that works. Have you had some instances where you were like, this works like 90% of the time, and then the results were different? Just curious if there's like some of these just weird exceptions out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when we're running the tests on the top 10 pages, we'll roll out because we roll, I can't remember what the actual term's called, but we look at what is the quickest test we can run with the highest probability of winning. And then we layer them up. So we do the quickest one that has a higher chance of winning. And then the second one will be the more code heavy one that takes a while to set up and so on. But we've done that before where it's looked like, all the 10 pages should have had a big increase and only 6 did. And you're just like, well, you just have to trust the data on that. And then that's the cool thing about it is now we have so much data where we can just go, okay, where this hasn't worked before, what did work? And then we'll go and change it up. And our job split testing is not really to identify the winners, but to limit the losers so that we don't have a decrease in revenue, because that's at the end of the day what we want to minimize. It's not really going to be of any help to the client if we have an increase of 30%, but then a decrease on 30% on some other ones, right? So we have to just identify what doesn't work and then focus on disregarding those. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's really well put, to just like, you got to limit the losers, and you'll get some winners along the way. I was playing poker with some friends. I don't play poker much. I'm not a gambler or anything,
Same
but I
mindset,
did
yeah.
much better. Just because I folded. I didn't play when I didn't have anything. I just folded, and I stayed in the game a lot longer and didn't lose much money.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing with poker is like not listening to your emotions, right? That's the hardest thing. It's like it's all numbers when it comes down to it. And it's exactly the same in CRO. It's just all the numbers. So
Gotcha. Cool. And I want to go back to the growing the team and running a services business. So have there been like any particular challenges in maybe like building the team and growing it? Sounds like you've done everything like pretty organically. You didn't get ahead of yourself, but any specific challenges running a service, dealing with clients, anything like that?
it was definitely interesting going from affiliate back into client. Definitely. Yeah, there was a lot the first year was really hard. There was a lot of sleepless nights. I put on a lot of weight. It was like working all the time, and definitely required I had to step back in. I felt like into a different role. Like I had to be employed again, almost. Like that's what it felt like after being an affiliate for so many years, doing whatever, partying all the time. All this sort of stuff where I didn't really care too much, but then definitely gave me a different level of responsibility. And then the key, I think, for me was just to find a really good partner in the operations side. That's what really helped us to grow. I haven't done any of the training for the operations team, and now I just tell him or ask him. Don't tell him anymore because he's partner, but I ask him, can we have this done now? Can we automate this? And then it's just done. So it's got to the point now where it's a really great partnership. We have a good team members, but of course there's been 3 or 4 team members we've brought in and trained, and then they just haven't had that drive. They weren't 18 players, and we had to let them go, like every team. But in the last sort of the first 6 months of this year was a really big growth. We used Mads Singers, who's a business consultant, and he helped us really put in a good framework for where we wanted to head and then what we would need to do to get there. And then it's pretty much straight after we had a team retreat with him, we had all the managers out with him, then everything exploded pretty quickly after that. And then we've got another team retreat in about a month and a half with him. You know, in the current stage, we'll sit down and then work out what the next stage is. So we meet up with him probably twice a year to really evaluate, and he helps us. He worked for IBM and Compaq and stuff, so he has that sort of corporate world view for the sort of tech space, which is really cool.
Interesting. And I guess he helped you set up the org chart and the structure so that it's scalable. Exactly. And okay.
And the mindset, and so the mindset for the managers on how to think, you know, and how to, he had this great saying where he says, always try to pass off your jobs to the people below you so that you can have more time to work on higher level things. It goes against the way you normally think, because if you're giving the people less senior than you your work, you think you're going to be out of a job. You know, that's your initial thought process. But what we realized is that was fantastic for our company, because then not only does everyone learn all the processes, they're always leveling up, you know. So it that was one thing that really helped us get to sort of like the stage right now.
Yeah. And funny thing, so I did that. I had like sort of a corporate background too. Mm-hmm. So I did that at my job, and it helps other people like grow, like you said, and actually get promoted. Like people don't want to do the same stuff like forever, so they enjoyed it, and it sort of eliminates your job. Eventually I got laid off because I was getting rid of everything, but it was great for me because I had a lot more free time. And so that's awesome. And I guess everyone on the team has that sort of mindset, and you understand like, hey, like I'm getting some, you know, I guess I'm learning, right?
Yeah, and they also become, it's really important for them to know that they become more valuable the more people they have under them, right? So when we can identify a new role because we've, you know, offloaded so many tasks, then we hire someone else, you know, and then it gets distributed even more. So if we have one or two people that are ill, or you know, maybe they're having a new child, or maybe, you know, whatever, then they need to take some time off work, the system just runs completely normal, because everyone knows there's always someone to slot up into that position if it's a more senior person, you know, or if there's a less senior person, then someone can always do that job because they taught the person below them how to do the job they were doing in the first place. So it works really well.
Right on. So any other, I guess, thoughts about like CRO, especially for affiliate marketers, or any tips, maybe something I didn't ask you that I should have?
I think everyone followed the same, from what we noticed, because we've worked with so many affiliate sites, everyone follows sites like yourself or there's a bunch of others out there too, that are authorities in the space, and everyone follows the same layouts. What we noticed is almost every site or every niche will respond differently to a different layout or the way you present your offers to people, because people just copy everyone else most of the time. No one's getting original articles written up. The guys who are actually getting the products, taking photos with them, are doing really well because it comes across as way more genuine. But when people are just rehashing everyone else's stuff, and you see it all the time on these brokerage websites and stuff, it's just the same site, just rewritten. It doesn't come across as authentic. So yeah, when I say you need to split test everything, well, that's easier said than done. But you should really, really look to, one thing that we've noticed is you should always look to have the user make a purchasing decision before they go to Amazon, for instance, if it's an Amazon site. What a lot of people do is there'll be a comparison table in TablePress with 10 different products, and all it has is the name, what the rating is, and one other feature. That doesn't really allow the user to be able to compare them side by side. So what the user will do is they'll go over and click into a new tab every single one of the different products. It's really hard to compare that amount of information, and a lot of them will get lost, and it really does compromise conversions. But if you can present or condense the information for each of, say, the 5 products that you're comparing in the comparison table, and you can allow them to make it go, yes, I want this one, and then jump over and buy straight on Amazon, then you're expediting the process a ton.
Got it. Very good.
Because then they can compare the different products side by side by just a quick glance, which is what 80% of people want to do. If, a lot of people do want to go down and scroll down and read more about it, which you have your mini review areas down the bottom. But most of the people just want a quick summary because they've already made the decision. They want to buy the headphones or the the laptop or whatever. It's just they just don't know which one is the correct one yet.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, where can people find you, Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, our website's convertica.org. And yeah, if you go to our blog /blog, there's a ton of stuff on there. You can find my links on there, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot. And appreciate your time and all your tips. Thanks.
No worries, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for checking out this interview with Kurt. Go check out Convertica as well. And if you happen to be brand new to the channel, thanks for checking out the video, and have a look at some of the other videos. If you'd like what you see, please subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications so you know when I go live or publish new videos or anything like that. So thanks a lot. We'll catch you on the next one.